Hi, welcome to the DRH show where I have wide-ranging conversations with fascinating people. We talk about all things psychology, mental health, and wellness. Today, I'm joined by a social entrepreneur, Derek Astorino. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here, Derek. And it's not every day that I get to talk to a social entrepreneur. I get to talk to a range of people from all sorts of backgrounds. So it'll be really interesting to hear your story. So let's kick this off by you telling us your background, your trajectory in life, and how you ended up doing what you're doing.
I've got background as far as like all the way back. My parents are a preschool teacher and a firefighter, so the entrepreneur route wasn't really something that they knew how to help me with. They supported me through it, but both of them said that they were ready for paychecks on the 1st and the 15th, and this is something that's outside their realm. It's one of my main accountability factors in the entrepreneurial realm. Is actually how I got in trouble. I got a DUI back in June of 11. As an Army officer, that's like a kiss of death. It pulled me off of a deployment. I got reassigned and didn't really have that good of a career going for me as a result of that. I still continued to serve, but more of a backseat serve. And one cool thing that came of it was this idea, this concept of the master resiliency trainer. The military started investing heavily in MRTs, as they call them, master resiliency trainers, because we were losing 21, 22 people a day to suicide. And having had my world turned upside down, they thought I was a good candidate for it. And I think that really helped me make an impact. But then the accountability factor came actually a year to the date later of me being relieved of my platoon and not going on a deployment. A buddy of mine, Ryan Rawl, took my spot on the deployment. And him, my first squad leader, Brad Thomas, and a member of the Alpha team, Metter, Specialist Metter, they, along with 5 others, were victims of a suicide bomber in Khost Province, Afghanistan. So the 3 of them perished, and then 5 were wounded, and 20 some Afghanis maimed and wounded as a result of the attack. So yeah, that's kind of like what led me into, okay, Derek, there's something else you need to be doing. Because had I been there was literally nothing I could have done different. It wasn't a tactical assault. It wasn't like they walked into an ambush. It wasn't like a raid had gone wrong. It was literally they were doing biometric scans in the middle of a market, and some guy came in on a vehicle-based IED and went kaboom. And yeah, so that's pretty much my background on how I got to where I was, because after that's when I started exploring routes and seeing what else I could do and what else was out there.
Thank you for sharing to us your military background. It's really an unusual trajectory. It's something that really needs, a lot of resilience and a lot of bravery. So thank you for sharing that journey. Now, obviously, those background became instrumental in what you're doing presently. And I understand at the core of what you're doing right now is community building. So, Derek, if you could kind of share to us the importance of community building.
Yeah, so, having had my life turned upside down with the military, and then actually, we'll get into it here further, having had my life turned upside down just as recently as COVID and losing my company as a result of it, I lean heavily on my community, my friends, my family, and then I do have some super fans out there, even though I'm not a big social entrepreneur yet. My support group and my community has been, what has helped me get through all of this. And, community it's everything. You have your relationships. We're not, we as human beings are a social being where the the community is where you get your your support from. And I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but it's very important to have that community, and to find your voice and find your support within them. They talk about I can't remember who said it, but if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And there's a lot of truth behind that.
Absolutely. And of course, Derek, you just quickly alluded to earlier how COVID has kind of reshaped the way you approach your your community building venture, your community building advocacy. So if you could just tell us how has COVID kind of impacted not just your own community, but different communities across the world, and from your own vantage point, what do you think we can do to rebuild it?
Yeah, I think, originally in 2020, the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and then everyone getting aggravated after all of that. I know it did a lot. Like I said, I mentioned with me, with my company, I put all my growth on my vendors rather than traditional loans. And it really sucked because I really enjoyed the relationship that I had and the community I had within my organization and with my vendors. But when they lost confidence in the market and ultimately confidence in me, and pulled some plays out that ultimately led to the demise of my company, that really hurt me. And I had to figure out, what else was out there. The one thing about COVID, though, that scares me was that Ben Franklin quote where it talks about, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty or safety. To me, those words have resonated throughout the last 2 years, because now we have this new Omicron variant out there, and everyone's worried about it. And, we're seeing shutdowns again. Community is more important now than ever. And it's more important now to remember that, like, your fellow man is there for you. We see too much where people are worried about safety. The world was always a harsh place, and it's always a harsh environment. And you're never going to be able to protect yourself from everything that's out there. And to think that, we need to rely on, and we do to an extent, rely on the experts and the professionals. But at some point, we need to remember that, it's us. It's our life. It's our world. And if we choose to live it in a certain way, then so be it. And we need to. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I'd actually kind of like to hear, since you interview so many people, and I'm sure this is something that you've talked about before, because I know a lot of people struggle with it. But I know a lot of people are growing tired of the strong thumb that is put on them right now. And it is feeling more oppressive than anything. And it's like, well, when are we going to get back to a community? When are we going to get back to enjoying being able to go out and talk to each other, hang out in numbers, have social events, and have that stuff? And you see it happening, but then you see people getting mad and saying, oh, look, they're spreading, they're hosting a super spreader, and they're doing this and they're doing that. So I don't know. I think community now is very important. And I think it's very important. And I commend you for what you do, as far as reaching out and dealing with this, because I would imagine right now you see more spikes in, mental health and resiliency issues, and, just people trying to figure out how to cope with it and where we're going to go from here.
Well, actually, Derek, we share the same sentiments. I'm actually more of, trying to foster resilience within community. It's really important that we kind of, encourage people to move forward. Like what you've said, the world is not, it's not a walk in the park, as cliched as it may sound. We have to be resilient to move forward. And of course, resilience, like what you've emphasized, it really comes from all sorts of factors. And one of those important factors is, your internal community, external community. Now, Derek, let's move on to a slightly different topic. Of course, you've already alluded to that you're working on a company. It's called Charleston in the Water. So, for the benefit of those who hasn't come across with your line of work, so please tell us more about Charleston on the Water. What's the aim of your company?
So, for the better part of the last decade, I had a dock building company. We had barges, several barges on the water, crews out there, and we were building docks, seawalls, boardwalks, beach accesses, and what around the Charleston, South Carolina, low country, as we call it. And I always had this desire to do more. I always wanted to create something on the water that would bring that community together, so to say. That would, we've got in the low country alone, we've got 60 something thousand registered watercraft. We've got, in the state of South Carolina, 400 something thousand registered watercraft. And we don't really have that many big water-based events. So Charleston on the Water was more so trying to figure out how to create that community within that group to where when you go online right now, a lot of them are, for lack of better words, Karens, where they just complain about their fellow boater. And back in my day, we didn't have this much traffic. Back in my day, we didn't have this or this. And it's like, well, how do we bring that community together? How do we develop something? Even, starting small. Where do we create something to bring these people out on their boats and get them back to what boating's supposed to be, what water's supposed to be? It's supposed to be fun. You're not really supposed to be looking for a reason to nitpick on people. And I mean, if you want to take a jab and joke and jest, then great, whatever, that's fun. But, so that's where we redirected it. And I always had this vision of doing like a small little concert on the water. And then last year with COVID in 2020, when they started canceling all the events for the 4th of July, and I know you're across the pond and, that you might have a different feeling on the 4th of July. But, that's our holiday. As Americans, that's our holiday. That's not the government's holiday. That's the day we as the American people celebrate our power as the public, and that, we bestow a faith and confidence in our leaders up in D.C. or at the different state capitals. But you can't take away the 4th of July. And that's where, like, I was sitting around on Memorial Day weekend when they were announcing the cancellation of all the different 4th of July holidays around town. It was like, this ain't happening. And in 30 days, we organized a concert where we parked a 120-foot barge out in the middle of Charleston Harbor, brought Colt Ford out of Nashville down, and just threw a party. We had about 500-600 boats come out. The good thing was, if you're on your boat, you're social distancing because you're open air and it's you and your nuclear family or your close circle of friends that you're already hanging out with anyways. We were in 10 feet of water, so it wasn't like a sandbar. It wasn't congested and people all packed together. So, it was a way to create fun and have a community that, enjoyed a holiday that everyone else was, limited by what the government wanted them to do. I did get, it was funny. I did get, all 3 local mayors were against it. I was getting emails or calls or texts from either them or indirectly through people within their network, talking to me about it. And then, it did get, the permit got denied originally at the state level. And it was my background. I'd consider myself a patriot with the military background. I told him, I was like, you want to make me a national icon? You want to cancel this party? Go right ahead. I'll be arrested on the 4th of July for throwing a party. You'll make me a hero. And they pretty much just went ahead and pushed the permit application through then. But Charleston on the Water is that. We're looking to create more of a community on the water, do more events, try to come up with some way to, get everyone involved, on a monthly routine if we can. Starting them off with annual, then maybe go to, semi-annual, monthly, and just start creating events.
Yeah, just quickly with your comment about 4th of July, because I'm a dual citizen, so I'm British and I'm also from the Philippines. So
Okay.
I have mixed feelings about 4th of July, obviously because you were there for Americans were there for quite some time. But anyway, you mentioned to us the kind of what your aim is for Charleston in the water. You want to kind of capitalize on water-based events. But do you have any long-term goals for your company? Let's say that we soon kind of reclaim a freedom, so to speak. Do you have any other plans for Charleston in the water?
So I got to be honest. I need to work on the long-term goals and the vision planning. Um, that was with my dock company. That was where I spent most of my time, was on the long-term goals, focusing on them and how do I get there. And I was able to grow that company, to one of the larger companies until it basically self-imploded. Um, but with everything else going on around me, I've lost my confidence, losing the company. And then I had a barge sink and I lost my confidence a little bit from that, but I'm working on getting it back. The long-term goals for it, though, is like I said, there's a group I'm involved with my alumni group from college that we've over the years built it. And I'd kind of like to mimic that, where, we have a sustainable organization that doesn't rely solely on volunteers. Its members, pay dues. We're able to then pay an executive director to come out and come up with creative events and creative concepts. And, because ultimately that's why Carolina Dock and Marine went under. It was not sustainable. And when my mindset started going away with COVID and dealing with some other internal issues and stuff, the company couldn't sustain itself without me. Even though it had 26 employees and some junior leadership in place, it leaned too heavily on me. So while I'm working on designing this organization, the main thing I got to keep in mind is how do I create something that's sustainable, that doesn't depend on me. Its members, the community can run it within itself and go that route. And then ultimately, I mean, I'd like to do something all up and down the East Coast if I could. Not just starting in Charleston, figuring out this market, this community. But I mean, boaters in Charleston aren't much different than boaters in Wilmington, North Carolina, or boaters in Jacksonville, Florida. I mean, so, and we're all longing for something. And we saw, because of COVID, that the water and like being out on the water, being out on a boat is a way to still do that with the restrictions we're seeing because of COVID.
Absolutely. Okay, well, Derek, thank you for sharing to us what your long-term aspirations for Charleston Underwater. Now, I'm quite sure that a lot of people would be interested to find out more what you do. So what I'll do is I'll pop in the link to the description notes. So for anyone who wants to kind of get in touch with you and get involved with what you do on Charleston Underwater, they can get in touch with you directly. But Derek, let's move on to slightly different aspect of what you do. While I was preparing for this interview, I just found out that you also manage your own YouTube channel. So if you could just tell us more about your YouTube channel and what kind of content you upload there.
Yeah, so it's a small channel. It's a small channel and growing. For years I've known the value of YouTube, and there's a friend of mine that he's made a cameo a couple times in the videos. I've always asked him when I was in the dock building business, to come out and shoot and create content, and I didn't do it. And it goes back to that old proverb of the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. So now I'm slowly growing that audience, and working on a YouTube channel. But it was, to me, when I threw that 4th of July event and I realized, I had to pull that whole thing off on sponsorships and pull it all together on sponsorships because there was no way to monetize it, to host the event. I I realized that, yes, I had some good connections within the community and was able to lean on some businesses just for the fact that, they wanted to kind of do something when nobody else was doing it as well. But I realized how irrelevant I was. And if I wanted to create a community on the water and do stuff, I needed to become relevant. And that's where YouTube, to me, gave me the opportunity to do that, because I don't really enjoy photos on Instagram or Facebook, because it's always somebody's highlight reel. And I think that creates more issues than it solves. Versus YouTube, I think it gives you a chance to be more authentic, and create content that's authentic and allows people to see you and see your personality and see it as what you're doing. And that's why I've enjoyed YouTube. And then one of the main reasons about it was because I'm sure most of your viewers would agree with this. We all sit there and think we've got a very interesting life, and I'm going to write a book or this or that. And I've written a couple hundred pages of what I would eventually want to be a book. And I had a friend tell me that everyone has a book in them. Most people should keep their book there. And it's kind of right. Because you create a book, and then you got to create your audience, and then you got to create your community. And YouTube gives you the chance to reverse engineer that, where you create your audience, you create your community, and then you see what they want and you see what they like. And I think that's the journey and the process I'm really enjoying in my first year of doing stuff on YouTube, is seeing what they like, and seeing how my personality can create content around what the audience wants.
So you've already got have a year's worth of content. So do you have any kind of favorite episodes so far?
Favorite episode. So I actually just posted something right around Christmas that I would say is my favorite episode. Up until that point, I was having fun. I blew up a boat, shot a boat full of holes, shot flare guns at a ballistic dummy, and was kind of trying to debunk or do the whole Mythbusters theme on a couple different things and just have fun with it. And then I went down to Fort Lauderdale for their Christmas boat parade. And when I was down there is when Mayfield, Kentucky and several other states got hit by a very devastating storm front that created some tornadoes that ultimately claimed the lives of about 91 people, 76 of them in Kentucky alone. And a buddy of mine who manages the Boat Life Charleston Facebook page that has 25,000 followers on it of the 60,000 boaters in the Charleston area, he reached out to me and was like, "Hey man, I want to organize a teddy bear drive, and I want to go to Kentucky and hand out teddy bears just before Christmas to the kids that just lost everything in the tornado." And we were able to, in less than a week, rally together and get several hundred teddy bears together. And he and I drove up to Kentucky, and literally we went to a couple of storm shelters, relief shelters, and handed them out there, but we weren't making a large impact. So we actually agreed that it was best just to go straight to the epicenter, straight to Mayfield, Kentucky. And we posted up on a street corner right across from a church group that was handing out food. And we turned it into, for lack of better words, a McDonald's Happy Meal experience, where you got your meal across the street and we handed out a toy with the meal. And it was very rewarding. And I would say that was probably so far my favorite episode, just because the joy that it brought me and the impact we were able to make.
Absolutely. Now, if anyone is going to visit your YouTube channel, they would notice that you also love pets. So tell us, how does your pet kind of help you in managing your stress? Because I would understand, due to your military background and obviously what you're doing right now in relation to, like COVID, it's quite a stressful lifestyle. So how did your pet keep you managing your stress?
Well, he keeps me managing my stress, and he keeps me very aware of other things. Mariner, I mean, he's my buddy. I call him a rescue dog. Even though he's an AKC registered papered dog, he's not a rescue dog. I didn't rescue him. He rescued me. I was in a terrible relationship at the time. And I realized how bad the relationship was based on how poorly she treated him. But then there was also, some other things too. Like, you can't see it through the computer, but I'm 6'2", 250 pounds. I'm a bigger guy, and I sometimes am not aware of how intimidating I can be. And he's made me aware of that, as well as aware of myself, where like he's my right seat ride. He goes pretty much everywhere with me. Not so much anymore that I had to make this change and got away from the dock building business, but for the first 4 years I had him, he was everywhere. We were inseparable. And I could see him start to cower or get anxious when I was getting loud or getting angry or anxious myself. And it made me very conscious of that. And I started managing my anger a little bit more. I started managing the way I came across to people a little bit more, just having the dog around. And it's amazing, like just what he can do.
Absolutely. I could understand that because I also have my own pet. So after this interview, I'll be spending some time with my cat. But obviously, having a pet is an important aspect of kind of having a self-care. Do you have any other self-care that you do aside from boating or having a pet?
With the military background, it used to be work out a lot with the COVID restrictions. I use that as an excuse to get away from it. And I definitely need to get back into it. The girlfriend has me going for walks and stuff now, which has certainly helped. Self-center at the start of the day, going for a walk before getting out into the world. I hate to admit also, just with my background and having admitted about the DUI, sometimes I do tend to drink a little too much. I've been able to curb that as of lately. Having a girlfriend helps with that too, because you don't really have a reason to go hang out with the guys. You'd much rather just hang out with her. But I did find myself, especially losing the company, self-medicating and spending a lot of time at the bar. And then as a result of that, I did seek help, which was a hard thing to do because, with the military background and mine predominantly being the combat arms field, there's a certain level of machismo there, and getting help is a difficult thing to do. But after I realized that I was self-medicating and doing a terrible job at it and it was not making things better, I did go seek help, and I got a prescription that really helps manage my stress. I've realized that, yes, my anxiety is a lot better right now as a result of that. I don't think I'll be doing it forever, because I also don't like, that stress, that hunger also gives you your drive and ambition. But going through what I was going through, I definitely need to reach out.
Well, thank you for highlighting to us the importance of reaching out when you're actually experiencing something bad, such as anxiety and depression. And yeah, it's really, good for you to share your experience. So everyone who's might be undergoing the same experience, they could kind of, learn from your own experience, Derek. Now let's go back to your company, Charleston Underwater, because earlier you mentioned that one of your long-term goals is kind of promoting sustainability. So Derek, just to highlight the importance of that, can you just tell us more about the importance of conscious living lifestyle, and how can it be impactful in future generations?
there's a couple things about conscious living lifestyle. In its definition, it talks about living consciously is about taking control of your life, about thinking about your decisions rather than making them without thought, about having a life we want rather than settling for one that befalls us. And like when you start picking that apart and start looking at that, I do and I don't live consciously because, and the reason I do is when you look at the steps that they talk about, that there, steps 1 and 2 is, practice meditation or yoga, to get in touch with yourself, and then getting to know yourself is step 1 and 2. And then, step 3 is accepting yourself. And the only reason I would say that I actually live a conscious living lifestyle is because I know myself and I accept myself. I am a spontaneous person, and you can still live a conscious lifestyle and be spontaneous. You don't have to make, long drawn out decisions. And being a military guy, General Patton is one of the most inspirational leaders to a lot of people, and he talks about a good plan executed violently today is better than a perfect plan next week. So like, yeah, you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about something, but if you come up with a plan and you execute it with a lot of passion and vigor, then go for it. The one thing about the conscious living lifestyle that really stands out, and it's something that a lot of people need to learn, is gratitude. Number 5 is talking about being grateful, and it's amazing where gratitude will get you. And to lean on another story, I had a microeconomics teacher when I was at the Citadel, Larry McKay, and real nice, small guy, real nice demeanor, and always said thank you. Like, thank you in the weirdest way. Thank you for taking notes. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for participating. And this is all stuff you're supposed to be doing, and he's thanking you for it. And you're like, what is this guy's deal? And Veterans Day rolls around, and he pops out an old VHS, which was funny because this was like 2006, 2007, when VHSs were already going by the wayside, or gone by the wayside maybe. And he pops in this thing, and it's got a History Channel special, and it's talking about Vietnam, and it's talking about a certain captain, Lawrence McKay. And like, I pull out the syllabus and I'm looking at Lawrence McKay. Could that be Larry McKay? And then there he is. And he's being interviewed by the History Channel. And this guy literally carried his badass card in his back pocket. Like, he was Special Forces during Vietnam. He was selected by the military to fly for the Blue Max, which was an aerial rocket artillery group. And he actually has the first confirmed kill on an enemy tank in combat with a helicopter. Like, historically speaking, that guy was an amazing person. And here he is in front of class, thanking you for showing up and thanking you for taking notes. And it's like, if that guy could do that and he can practice gratitude and be grateful throughout his day, then why can't you? And to me, that's where, like, conscious living is, it's practicing meditation. It's getting to know yourself. It's accepting yourself. But gratitude in life is something I think that a lot of people need to accept.
Absolutely, and gratitude along with humility. Now, Derek, I was navigating your website, and then I noticed that you kind of invite sponsors to be involved on Charleston in the Water. So, what does sponsorship involve?
So, again, I'm still defining Charleston on the Water. The sponsorship that's listed on the website, those are my sponsors that helped me pull off that event. That event was $100-something thousand event that I wasn't able to charge anyone for. So it was really, at that point, it was the community reaching out. And like I said, the beautiful thing about that event was it was on the 4th of July. And I was able to reach out to small business owners or slightly larger business owners in the local area that were able to extend help and, with me, it reinstilled my faith in the fact that it is we the people. So my sponsors in that sense were the ones that are listed on the page, were the ones that helped me pull off that event. Are they still giving? Not so much, but that's because I haven't really asked anything of them as of lately. So, going forward, the sponsors will be the people that help me develop the community, the Charleston on the Water community that, is an event-based community that basically brings people out and, lets them have fun on the water.
Now, so one of the recurring themes in this conversation is that we're really emphasizing the importance of community building. And since you've been in this kind of line of work for quite some time, you probably come across with a number of misconceptions. So, Derek, if you could just kind of identify some of the misconceptions about community building and kind of address those misconceptions.
When building a community, I have noticed, and this goes back to my parents. My mom's a preschool teacher. My dad's a firefighter. But they are very community based, and even my grandparents were community based. Like if you go back home to my hometown, people either love or hate the Astorinos. But it's funny, they all know the Astorinos, and it's because of their community involvement. I mean, my dad will be out working, a food line, or yesterday he does a bread drive where they distribute bread throughout the community to the local shelters and stuff. And it's funny though, because I say they either love or hate you. And the craziest thing about community building, the haters have the louder voice. And you got to be conscious of that like Gary V, like he said something that like really helped me with when I was planning my concert, because I start planning this thing and it's free, 100% free. Come out on a boat. And I was getting more and more negative feedback about it. And not because being socially irresponsible because of COVID. It was more, well, I don't have a boat. How am I going to get out there? Well, call somebody up who's a friend with a boat. We all have friends with a boat. Those are some of the best friends I have. Or, just different things like, oh, you're just doing this because you want to be popular. And it's like, no, I'm pretty cool with myself. Like I know who I am, and I know and I love the people that love me. And like, I don't really need more friends. I don't mind having more friends, but it's not a popularity contest. But like Gary V talks about it where he's got a bunch of rules of what you need to do. And the one he talks about, and it really aligns with the conscious living lifestyle, is you need to remind yourself to ignore the opinions of others. Because you'll hear more bad opinions than you will good opinions, even though there are people that will rally behind you and you'll build super fans and you'll have like people that really believe in you. No matter what, those haters are going to be louder. And yesterday, I got the ability to go out, or I got the privilege to go out on the water with Alfred Montaner of South Florida, and he's a YouTuber with 190 something thousand subscribers, and really truly he's responsible for half of my subscribers. Alfred has called me and given me a confidence boost when I need it. And then, like I said, we even got to go out on the water together yesterday. And my best watched video with 30 something thousand views on it is all because of having fun and just doing something stupid. But the negative feedback that I got on it, the negative comments, and where I am in my mental space right now, I turned off the comment section because it was just blowing up with negativity. And I didn't want that, and I don't want my community to be that. But Alfred was like, dude, embrace the haters. Because how you respond to the haters is what's going to make those that love you even more. And I'm glad he said that, because like that has been a silent mantra of mine forever, but I lost touch with it the last couple of years. And I would say that's that's the misconception about community building, is you're going to build a community and you're going to have your super fans and you're going to have the people that love you. But unfortunately, with that comes a lot more hate, because there is a lot of hate in the world, and there's really not much you can do to solve it. Just be you and be true to your super fans and create stuff for them and for yourself.
Absolutely, and that's also another thing that I could strongly relate with, because even just creating your own YouTube channel, you would get a lot of haters. I've experienced that myself. Sometimes you get email on a daily basis. Because I don't just create contents on YouTube, I also run my own blog, and you pretty much get immune to it, because like what you've said, those who criticize you have the loudest voice, but you just have to kind of concentrate on what your goals are, what your long-term goals are. But Derek, what would you say are the highlights of your career so far, whether it's your military career or your career as a social entrepreneur?
So my military career was great, even though it had its bad sides. They were all self-induced and self-inflicted on the bad sides. The opportunity that was afforded to me through the military, the training, the experience, and just overall fantastic. Being able to travel and meet people from all walks of life and be able to make an impact in other parts of the world. Awesome. And, the definition of leadership, and I'm reminded about it now while I'm going through, this interview with you and talking about what are the long-term plans and long-term goals of Charleston on the Water, where like I'm kind of really now kicking myself in the butt, like that I'm losing that, because, the definition of leadership, and this is loosely paraphrased, defined by the Army, is providing inspiration, motivation, and direction to accomplish the mission and improve the organization. And the reason I got out was because I lost faith and confidence in myself. I was feeling more of a hypocrite with what I was going through. And I've had other people reach out and they miss you, you miss the camaraderie and you miss all of that. But I certainly love what the military instilled in me. And I love where we went with it and, what training I got out of it. Goals, and I mean, my high points on the civilian side, they used to be the accolades. Like I've gotten Charleston's 40 under 40. I've gotten the best and brightest under 35 award. And like, to me, like, oh, I need that stuff. I need to check the box. I love stuff like that originally, and now it's more like, yeah, I'm glad I have it, because now I'm 36. So I can no longer get the best and brightest under 35 if I wanted to get it, but I have it. So it's there. And the 40 under 40 was pretty cool too. But it's like, to me, my highlights are more so what caused me to be self-aware, and how I got to explore myself and explore what possibilities and opportunities are out there and what I could create, and the things I got to create. Like I said, I mean, I from scratch created a 26 employee company. I made some pitfalls along the way and some bad decisions, but even those bad decisions, those are highlights, because it allowed me to become self-aware. Like I realize now, a year out, that one of the most terrible decisions I did was the arrogance of thinking I could run the company better than I could run and manage the sales of my company. And I hired salesperson after salesperson rather than hiring a general manager. And had I stayed in sales and hired a general manager, I very well may have still had a company, because the sales is what got me. And I love sales. I love people. I love talking to people, and I love pushing a product. And so, yeah, I mean, like, highlight wise, that's a tricky question, because the accolades are great, but I think really, truly, the highlights are getting outside your comfort zone and figuring out where you need to improve.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Gary Vee earlier, but is there any other individual who has the greatest influence on your work?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't really know how to answer that because, like I mentioned, Alfred, within the last several months, him just reaching out, because I didn't know him, he didn't know me, but he reached out, and him helping me get back and centered on it. And then I had a business coach with the dock building business, Allison Maslin. She's got Pinnacle Global Network and does really great things out in San Diego. Her and her team and the coach I had through her, Tammy Moore, and that group, they were the ones that they were my mastermind that helped me and encouraged me pull together the concert. I can't give a shout out to any one individual. I mean, there's several people that have helped mold me into the person I am today.
And a lot of people would be encouraged by your journey, but would you have any advice for those who wants to follow your footsteps, especially now that it's really kind of difficult to set up your own company? But what would be your top advice?
So Sean Cannell says you got to just press record, and that's on every intro he does for YouTube. And there's a lot of truth to that. And it's not just you got to just press record. There's also, in business, whether you're going to do the YouTuber or social influencer or any of that stuff, or you're going to be a businessman in the traditional sense with a brick and mortar business, or you're going to start a food truck or anything, you got to just do it. That business plan is important, and the bank or lenders are going to ask you for it. But in my travels and who I've met and who I've talked to, on the airplane, you can talk to everyone that's got a business idea. And it's just like my friend said about the book. Most people have a business idea just like they have a book in them. And they're still working on it. But they haven't taken that step. And taking that step is very important. And when you take that step, be true to yourself. Know who you are. Know what you're capable of. And if you don't know what you're capable of, figure it out, or hire somebody to help you figure it out. And don't be afraid of failure. Embrace it. There's books out there with certain titles like how to lose everything and still win big, or how to fail at everything and still win big, I believe is the title of it. And there's other books out there about doing over, the do-over, this or that. And there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, we, through our social interactions and our upbringing, a lot of times fear failure. And failure is what helps us grow as individuals. And embracing it as a process and embracing it as life in general. And I don't know what your background is. I'm born and raised Irish, Italian, Roman Catholic. That, some people would probably get mad at me if I started talking about Islam. But the beautiful thing in studying other faiths that I've realized is Islam talks about the jihad. And jihad is perverse and distorted in the last couple decades because of the extremists and because of what goes on in the Middle East. But when you look at what jihad means, it just means struggle. It's life. Life is a struggle. And what a beautiful way to describe it. And I think in a rather deep and philosophical way of following in footsteps is realizing that life is a struggle. Business is a struggle. It's all a struggle. And you just got to be true to yourself and figure out what it is you want. And is it worth going through that struggle?
Yeah. Just like you, I'm also raised as a Catholic, obviously, because I'm from Philippines. But if you weren't a social entrepreneur, Derek, what do you think you would have been doing in life?
I'm not entirely sure I've unlocked that achievement just yet, the social entrepreneur achievement. I'm right now, it's more of a hobby. I'm not really creating much revenue out of it, and if I'm not drawing revenue, I'm not really truly an entrepreneur, because it's not capitalized yet. But I have been an entrepreneur, and I still consider myself to be one. It fits me. With my time in the Army, I've done some time in the corporate world as a director of sales, director of marketing, and all that different stuff. That just wasn't me. I love being autonomous, and I love flexibility. And, that's through entrepreneurship is where you find those. Yeah, I'm going to put in 80 hours worth of work on a week sometimes. Yeah, I'm going to be up, for a 12, 16-hour day. But if I'm doing it on my terms, and I know that's rather selfish, but it's more than compensation. It's the achievement. It's at the end of the day sitting back and saying, I built that. That's me. This is me. And the compensation part, the money part or earnings part is all just a way of keeping score. But the impact that you make is much greater. And I would say the reason I'm exploring the social entrepreneur side is that we've seen more than ever now, there's the ability to make a bigger impact. And my business partner through the dock business, when we started closing the doors, and he's 25 years my older, he said something that resonates with me, that it's the thing that sucks the most about this, like right now being broke, starting over, is I lost my ability to be generous. And that's why I said my favorite video is the video of me going to Kentucky and handing out teddy bears, because it brings you back to the ability to be generous and the ability to create content and maybe create excitement and joy and generosity through content is what energizes me about the idea, the concept of social entrepreneurism.
Absolutely. And Derek, finally, the floor is all yours. Tell us what else is in the pipeline for Charleston on the Water. And also, if people wanted to reach out to you, what platforms can they get in touch with you at? Although you mentioned earlier that you're not probably on socials.
Yeah. Well, we're on socials. Charleston on the Water, like I said, I've recognized that. So it's on Facebook. It's on Instagram. I'll send you those links so you can link them if you want. And then it's obviously on YouTube. What's in the future for it is right now, as a result of the concert, one thing that I realized was there was no food options in the Charleston area that's on the water, like truly on the water, like they do have in some other prominent boating areas. So I'm going to be launching a food boat this season. I bought one and played with it a little bit last season and the season before, but I found out what didn't work. So I've been taking the last several months trying to figure out ways to improve it and get it back out for this season. So we'll have a floating kitchen out on the water, which will give us a way to generate content and be out there in the community and doing stuff. And with that, it's probably going to be several micro events. I don't think we're going to do a large event this year. I still don't have the energy or the capacity to do so. But I can certainly pull off a couple of micro events with the community that I have and the sponsors that I have. So we'll do some smaller things. The gentleman that I went up to Kentucky with, he throws a really cool poker run in the Charleston area. So we partnered with him last year. And again, that's something where I learned a lot just through the partnership with him for his one event. And there's ways to improve on it this year that can also, build that community more. So that's what's in the near future. And that's where I want to go with it right now. And then, like I said, some of it's all just going to be sit back and see what opportunities are out there as we develop it. And like I said, I'll give you the links to the social networks. If people want to follow us, reach out. If you're in the Charleston area, certainly please reach out. love hanging out with people and love the experience of meeting people.
Absolutely. Well, what I'll do is I'll stick all those shiny links on the description notes so anyone can directly get in touch with you. Well, Derek, good luck with your plans for Charleston on the water, and thank you for sharing with us your journey. It's a pleasure having you here on the DRH show, but unfortunately, time is against us. I look forward to hearing more about your work, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Hope 2022 is a great one. Thanks again. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for letting me share my story.